Why does God allow us to be tested? You know, a lot of times when we're going through our various trials and our tribulations in life, we have a tendency to develop a why me attitude, right? When we're facing a struggle, you know, we'll come before God and we're like, God, why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this type of mentality, right? And so with this video, what I want to do is ultimately shift your perspective to realize that the trials and tribulations that we face can actually be a good thing and are a good thing, and we should count them as a good thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to read from James, and we're going to start at James chapter 1, verse 2. So it says this: "Count it all joy, my brothers, when you meet trials of various kinds, for you know that the testing of your faith produces steadfastness." Okay, so to really understand the complexity of this verse and what that means, we need to break down two words. Okay, we need to break down first testing. All right, so testing in this context is translated from the Greek, and the word testing is in the Greek was often used to describe precious metals put through extreme heat to remove impurities, becoming so pure that you could see your reflection. Okay, so they used to take metal and put it through extreme heat it up, and then as the metal would heat up, they would scoop the top layer off, test it again, scoop the top layer off, and then they would continue this this process until you were able to look down at the metal and see your reflection. And that's how you knew that the testing was complete in regards to the metal, right? So now let's look at steadfastness. Steadfastness means to be firmly fixed and not subject to change, to be firm in belief and determination, and to be loyal and faithful. Okay, so when we go through a testing, it's designed to produce steadfastness, right? So God is ultimately wanting to test us to purify us. To purify us so that way when He looks down at us, He can see His reflection in us. The testing in and of itself is designed to evolve our character to the point to where we can now stand firm and be fixed and not subject to change, right? Example I want to use here is when we're on our phone and we're texting and we're using the alphabet or we're using numbers. Those are categorized as characters. An A is always going to be an A, and a Z is always going to be a Z, right? And it's never going to change from that. And so ultimately, when you can evolve your character to the point to where you can stay firmly fixed and it's not subject to change, you are remaining in steadfastness, right? And that's where ultimately God wants us to be. So that way, when any various situation that comes at us, we can stay in that steadfastness, and our character is not subject to change, right? So verse 4 says this: "And let steadfastness have its full effect, that you may become complete, that you may become perfect and complete, lacking in nothing." Verse 5: "If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given to him." Verse 6: "But let him ask in faith, with no doubting, for one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind." Verse 7: "For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord." Verse 8: "He is a double-minded man, unstable in his ways." See, guys, when we have our testing and our trials, sometimes we can't see that it's actually for our benefit. Even though God wants to use these trials to produce a better character, it's hard sometimes to see that that's ultimately the goal, because we're so fixed on the struggle that we're currently facing. It's hard to see that this is actually for our benefit. And so in situations like that, God is saying, ask for the wisdom. Ask for the wisdom to see how this is actually benefiting you, right? But don't ask with any doubt, because And here's the thing, you realize in the Bible it even says that it is impossible to please God without faith. right? It actually says anything done outside of faith is a sin. So God is not in the business of doubting. If you come before God and you boldly ask something of God, you have to expect that it to happen. You have to exercise faith and expect that it's going to happen. If you seek him in regards to wisdom, you have to earnestly believe. First, you have to earnestly seek him, but then you have to earnestly believe that it's going to happen, right? And so in the midst of us going through our trials and tribulations, when we turn to God and ask for that wisdom, we have to firmly believe that he is going to reveal those things to us and show us why we are currently going through this testing. Okay, moving on, verse 9. Let the lowly brother boast in his exaltation, and the rich in his in verse 10, and the rich in his humiliation, because like a flower of grass he will pass away. Verse 11. For the sun rises with scorching heat and withers the grass. Its flowers falls, and its beauty perishes. So also will the rich man fade away in the midst of his pursuits. Okay, the rich man will fade away in his pursuits. You see, guys, sometimes when we go through these trials, God wants to really expose the idols that we are clinging to in our life. You know, let's say I come before God and I'm like, God, please give me more money. Please provide for me. Please give me more of these materialistic things. If God just snapped his finger and gave you those things, what would you do with it? Would you end up pursuing that more so than pursuing a relationship with him? Would you put the love for money over the love that you have for God? You see, so this test is designed to reveal the character flaws that we have. Some of us are so bent on wanting to possess the materialistic things in life more so than actually having a genuine, intimate connection with God. And as long as we have these things that we are pursuing rather than the pursuit of God, it's only standing in the way for him to be able to bless us. But not only that, most importantly, to develop that intimate relationship that he desires to have with us, that he paid the ultimate price of sending his only begotten son to die on a cross and shed blood so we could enter a new covenant with him. Right? That's a hefty price. And he doesn't want you to forget about that. He doesn't want to bless you with the materialistic things and then lose the relationship that you have. Because as it says here, the rich man will fade away in the midst of his pursuits. What are you pursuing? God doesn't want you to pursue things that's ultimately going to have you forget about him and his mercy and his grace. Okay? Verse 12. Blessed is the man who remains steadfast under trial, for when he has stood the test, he will receive the crown of life, which God has promised to those who love him. You see, guys, those who pass the tests, those who endure this testing phase are ultimately the ones who love God. And because here's the thing, you have to understand that this is for your benefit and that God is trying to elevate you. And so by taking that testing and walking into it with that mindset, it's showing God, man, this child of mine really loves me because he's willing to go through this test. He's willing to forsake the ways of the flesh, to forsake the materialistic things, to forsake the desires of this world, so that way he can walk in righteousness and be more purified in my image. So when I look down at him, I can see my reflection. You see, if you really want to be of use to God, you have to kill your ego, you have to kill your pride, and you have to give away all your earthly desires. That's how God is really able to use you on this earth to advance the kingdom and to share the gospel with others. And that's the thing. You cannot have a testimony without the test. Right? And when you're able to overcome that test to produce the testimony, that testimony can then be used for others who may have potentially been struggling with the same thing that you did. And by the grace and the goodness and the mercy of God, you are now able to take that testimony and show what you have overcome so others can potentially do the same. You see, this whole testing process is designed to build your character. You know, and so that way, when various circumstances come your way, you are solid. You are firmly fixed. You stand 10 toes down, baby. You know what I'm saying? You're staying 10 toes down. You're not going to shift up under any circumstance, no matter what type of heat, no matter what type of pressing. You know, that's what I said, pressing produces diamonds. No matter what is coming towards you, you are able to stand firm. You know, and that's why it says Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever. Because no matter what, he's not switching up. And God wants you to be the same way. He doesn't want you to switch up, and he wants to evolve you to be more like him, so that way you can be more of use in advancing the kingdom and sharing the gospel. Okay? So, given what we spoke about in this video, guys, I really want you to start looking at the test and start to rejoice in it, because it's actually a good thing and it's actually for your benefit. It's in order to produce a greater character, and ultimately, which is going to allow God to use you for bigger and better things, right? So that's the video for today, guys. If you learned something and you like this and you feel like this can be of use to someone else, please share it with them. Like the video, and also comment down below. Comment down below any of the things that you're currently going through, any trials and tribulations you're currently facing, so that way you could be a testimony to someone else who is also potentially going through this. All right? Shalom and God bless. We'll see you in the next one.